4.1 million barrels of oil, move through the middle of Istanbul every day. Not around the city, through it, down a channel that at its narrowest is less than half a nautical mile across, with 16 million people living on both banks. On the 8th of August this year, ships waiting to enter that channel were told their permits were being withheld. Not all of them. Ships bound for Bulgaria, for Romania, for Georgia went through the same day without delay. The ones held back were bound for Russia and for Ukraine. Same water, same weather, same treaty. The difference was not their flag and it was not their cargo, it was where they were going. Because for 90 years the rule here has been about as simple as international law ever gets. Complete freedom of transit. Not freedom if you can pay, not freedom if the weather allows, complete freedom, written down in 1936 and untouched since. More than 40,000 ships a year cross on that promise. Nobody closed the strait, nobody blockaded it. Somebody looked at where each ship was going and decided. This is a film about the one choke point on Earth where the gate is a piece of paper, and about what happens to a ship when passage stops being a rule and becomes an answer. The Black Sea is almost closed. 6 countries sit on it: Russia, Ukraine, Türkiye, Romania, Bulgaria, Georgia, and between them they have exactly one sea route to the rest of the world. A ship leaving that basin enters the Bosphorus, 17 nautical miles long, running north to south straight through Istanbul. It crosses the Sea of Marmara. Then it enters the Dardanelles, 33 nautical miles more, and only then does it reach the Aegean and the open Mediterranean beyond. Together they are called the Turkish Straits. 2 channels, 1 sea in between, and 1 document governing both. There is no alternative, no cape to sail around, no second strait, no canal, no overland route that moves anything at the scale a ship does. For everything on that sea, Russian crude out of Novorossiysk, Ukrainian grain out of Odesa, every warship of every navy that keeps one there, this is the only door. And every inch of it is Turkish water. And nothing can be done about the shape of it. A canal can be widened. The Bosphorus is a drowned river valley. It is the width that it is. Look at what that door actually is. This is a working strait carrying tankers of a size that would look large in open ocean, and it runs between apartment blocks. Bridges cross above it. Ferries cut across the shipping lane all day, at right angles to traffic that cannot stop and cannot swerve. There are bends where a large ship has to alter course sharply while underway. There is a surface current running south out of the Black Sea and a deeper current running north underneath it, in the opposite direction, so a hull and its rudder can be pushed different ways at the same time. And there is fog, which closes the strait without warning and without appeal. Türkiye's own foreign ministry calls it one of the most difficult and dangerous waterways in the world, which means a ship in trouble here is not a shipping story. It is a city center story. And that is the first reason the rules matter, because the consequences of getting this wrong do not stay at sea. They come ashore, into a city of 16 million people, in minutes. To understand the document, you have to know what it replaced. After the First World War, the straits were taken away. The Treaty of Lausanne, signed in 1923, demilitarized them. Türkiye kept the shoreline, but the water was placed under an International Straits Commission flying the flag of the League of Nations. A country held the banks of its own strait and was not permitted to fortify them. It spent the next 13 years asking for that back, and by the mid-1930s the argument had stopped being theoretical, because Everyone at the table could see a war coming. So in 1936, at Montreux in Switzerland, the powers gave the straits back. The commission was abolished. Sovereignty returned to Türkiye, which was free to fortify the straits as it saw fit. But it was not a simple handover. Türkiye did not get the gate and the right to do as it pleased with it. It got the gate and a rule book. And it is the rule book, not the sovereignty, that has decided the naval balance of the Black Sea ever since. The convention splits the strait in two, and the split is the whole story. For merchant ships, Article 2. In time of peace, merchant vessels shall enjoy complete freedom of transit and navigation in the straits, by day and by night, under any flag, and with any kind of cargo, without any formalities. Any flag, any cargo, no formalities. That is about as absolute as treaty language ever gets, and it is why, for 90 years, the merchant half of Montreux has been the half nobody argued about. There is one small administrative line underneath it. A ship passing through is asked to report 5 things: her name, her nationality, her tonnage, her last port of call, and her destination. Hold on to that word, destination. In 1936, it was a clerk's detail, a line on a form for collecting light dues. Now the other half of the treaty. Because for warships, the document stops being permissive and turns into a machine. A warship cannot simply arrive. Its government has to notify Ankara through diplomatic channels 8 days in advance, 15 if the country does not border the Black Sea, and that notification has to state the destination, the name, the type, and the number of vessels. No more than 15,000 tons of foreign naval force may be in transit at any one moment, and no more than 9 ships. Countries that do not border the Black Sea may keep no more than 30,000 tons inside it, and none of their warships may stay longer than 21 days. The treaty says, whatever be the object of their presence there. Read those 2 halves next to each other, and you can see exactly what 1936 was trying to build. Commerce was supposed to be automatic. Force was supposed to be counted, timed, and declared in advance. One half was a promise, the other half was a permission system. Then, in 2022, that permission system was switched on, and the world got to see what a document can actually do. Russia invaded Ukraine on the 24th of February. The same day, Ukraine's president asked Türkiye to close the straits to Russian warships. But Türkiye could not simply choose to. The relevant clause is Article 19, and Article 19 only operates in time of war, which meant everything depended on a single act that sounds like nothing at all. Türkiye had to formally recognize that what was happening was a war. Not declare war, not join one, just classify one and say so on paper through the diplomatic channel. On the 27th of February, 3 days into the invasion, Türkiye's foreign minister announced that it had. And once that classification was made, Article 19 did the rest by itself. Vessels of war belonging to belligerent powers shall not pass through the straits. That clause is narrower than people think. It applies to the warships of the countries actually fighting, so it stopped Russia reinforcing its Black Sea fleet from the Mediterranean, and it stopped Ukraine, and it stopped nobody else. NATO's navies were not belligerents. Article 19 was never a general switch for neutral warships. So the next day, Türkiye asked. It advised every country, member of the alliance or not, that sending warships into the Black Sea would not be welcome while this was going on. No navy chose to test it. That is the part worth sitting with. One clause stopped the belligerents. A request covered everybody else, and it has held for 4 years without ever being tested. No fleet did that. No blockade did it. A paragraph did half of it, and a phone call did the rest, and the paragraph only woke up because somebody chose a word. Which brings us back to this August. Through 2026, the war stopped staying away from commercial shipping. On the 3rd of August, a Turkish roll-on roll-off ship, the Najda, was hit by a drone 20 nautical miles off Novorossiysk. 3 of her 22 crew seriously injured. She was not the first Turkish vessel attacked that summer, and not the last. Not warships, commercial hulls, commercial crews, commercial cargo, exactly the ship's Article 2 was written to protect. And on the 8th of August, the ships from the start of this film stopped moving. Türkiye's Directorate General of Coastal Safety told vessels bound for Novorossiysk and, reportedly, for Ukrainian ports, that their transit permits were being withheld, or that it needed longer to evaluate them. Everything bound anywhere else sailed. No official explanation was given. The Transport Ministry did not comment. So look carefully at what is being used to sort those ships. Not their flag, Article 2 says any flag. Not their cargo, any kind of cargo. Not their tonnage and not their owner. Their destination. The clerk's detail from 1936 has quietly become the line on which the decision gets made. And note where that decision comes from, because it does not come from the treaty. Montreux has no destination-based permission system for merchant ships, no clause to invoke, no Article 19 for cargo. What there is traffic control, the ordinary machinery that decides when a ship may enter a crowded waterway, which every strait authority on Earth has. And that machinery has been fought over before. When Türkiye tightened its traffic rules in 1994, Russia protested that safety regulation was reaching into a freedom the treaty guarantees. The rules were renegotiated 4 years later. So this is not a new argument. It is the oldest argument about this strait, arriving somewhere it has not been before, because in 1994 the question was how ships pass. In August, it was which ones. The half of Montreux that was written as automatic is now being administered as a decision. And here is why that is worse than it sounds, even though nothing has closed. Waiting is expensive. A tanker costs tens of thousands of dollars a day simply to exist, and that clock runs whether she moves or not. She has a window of dates to present at the load port, and if she misses it, the charterer can walk away. Her war risk cover is priced per voyage, so every extra day off the Dardanelles is a day being requoted. But none of that is the real problem. Shipping is extremely good at absorbing costs it can calculate. The real problem is that this one cannot be calculated. A war risk premium can be quoted because risk is a number. A toll can be paid because a toll is published. Even an auction can be planned around. Panama sells its slots to the highest bidder, and a ship once paid nearly $4 million for one crossing, because a price is information, however brutal the price. A permit that may or may not be granted for reasons nobody will state is not information. There is no premium that makes it go away. There is no bid that resolves it. You cannot hedge a decision. So the ship does the only rational thing left. It goes somewhere else, or it never books the voyage at all. And that is the quiet part. A gate does not need to stop a single ship to change what sails. It only needs to make owners uncertain enough to stop planning on it. Most choke points are frightening because they can be blocked. This one is frightening because it does not have to be. It is open. It has been open the entire time. Ships are moving through it right now, tonight, past apartment windows in Istanbul, and the tonnage figures for this year will look completely normal. But open is not the same as automatic. A warship's passage here has always depended on a clause. That was the design, and the design worked. A merchant ship's passage was supposed to depend on nothing at all. As of this August, it depends on somebody's answer. The other gates in this series each failed in their own way. Hormuz shut through insurance without a single blockade. The Bab el-Mandeb stayed open and was abandoned anyway. Panama never closed at all and sold what was left to whoever could pay. The Turkish Straits are the fourth version and the quietest of the four. Nothing here is blocked or bombed or auctioned. Someone simply decides. You can price a risk, you can pay a toll, you cannot hedge a permission. A gate does not have to close to stop being a gate. It only has to become a decision. Hormuz, the Bab el-Mandeb, and Panama are already mapped on this channel. If there is a choke point you think should be next, tell us in the comments. We read them.